Hi, my beautiful blue babes. Welcome back to my channel. So today I have some tips for you guys on art shows. I have like a little thing of notes right here that I wrote down, and this is another requested video. I just kind of wanted to give you guys some more kind of in-depth tips of how to get started, how I got started. So this is all knowledge from what I know, nothing that's set in stone or like how to do, but hopefully these tips are helpful. So if I am just like looking down right here, it's because I'm looking at my notes. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget, I can't talk. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, comment, share, subscribe. Sorry if this is like a chill video. I'm kind of tired and I figured it's just like a talking one, so there's not much going on. But again, this is just tips for people who want to get into art shows and craft shows and things like that. So yeah, let's just get into it. Start with how to get into art shows. Honestly, the number one tip I can give you is do not stop searching. And what I mean by that is like online, just constantly looking up the same thing multiple times and just digging through every website you can find. It's just a whole process that takes a lot of time, so you really have to be dedicated to it. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent just on my phone, on my laptop, looking for art shows and stuff. Not that I've necessarily done all of them, but it makes me more aware of things that are happening. And so if I want to in the future, try to stay more local at first. Do your best to do that. Or if you're willing to travel, that's fine. But just make sure that it's going to be worth your time. A lot of art shows, people don't really know this, but a lot of them can actually be quite expensive depending on the place that you're doing it at, and if it's like an artsy area, if you really know that you're going to make money, then a booth can cost on average $300 to $400, and that's like good price stuff. There are ones that cost $700, or there's ones that cost like thousands of dollars. But obviously, like if you're new, I would not recommend doing that. And I'm speaking from people who has $300 to be spending every time you want to do an art show. Sorry, that's crazy to me a little bit, especially when you're getting started. Obviously, when you get going, they're good to do, but I recommend trying to find cheaper ones where you can still make a good profit. But you just have to have like the right stuff. You have to really know your audience and know the environment, because not everybody's willing to pay the price, which kind of sucks, because you want your stuff to be worth it, and it could be putting down a little bit to you, because you want to know that your stuff is worth it, but don't let that put you down, because a lot of the time it's just the fact that people don't want to pay the money. So yeah, hopefully you guys find some in your area that are around 50 to 200 maybe. That's pretty good range to start. But yeah, I'd recommend that. Sorry, I just saw somebody in my backyard. But yeah, I'd recommend on doing that. So just search. It's very important to just dig through the internet. There are websites that actually are dedicated to letting you know when there are art shows in your area, so I recommend trying to find some of those and signing up for them. I think one of them is called Application. I think it's something like that, and it's and then yeah, so they just send you information about art shows. And then there's one called Cafe, which I recently just found out about, but these, you can kind of look through it instead of looking through all these other websites. You can just go through one website, put in like your location and your area, and it will show up art shows through that. But I normally like to do more than just that, because they might not have everything, and it might be more expensive ones that you're not willing to pay. But yeah, I would just look for those. So actually getting into the shows, things that you will need, I would very much recommend to have the best quality pictures as you can. Most of the time, applications will require you to send in pictures of your work and your booth setup, because they want to know that you would fit in the environment. Not everything, for me, like I wouldn't fit in every art environment because maybe these people don't really like abstract art. Maybe they like pop art or something like that. But yeah, just make sure you know what area you're going to be in and what kind of art show or craft show that you're doing, because your work might not fit in there. That doesn't mean it's not good. It just means that you need to find somewhere else to show your stuff. So yeah, make sure to have good pictures. And then another thing is, depending on the show, I don't say this is as common for smaller shows, but one thing you might need is an artist statement, an artist biography, and a resume. And these are things that I honestly struggled with, or one thing I wouldn't do is I would type it up in the moment and then I would send it in. So when I needed it again, I wouldn't have the statement or the biography, so I'd have to type it all over again, which was really annoying. So just make sure to do that, to at least have it in a document and set aside. A resume, I wouldn't think you would need till later on, till you're signing up for things, maybe like galleries or magazines. I don't think you would need that right now, but it might be good to have, unless you don't really have much to put on it. The only reason I have stuff to put on it now is because I did so many art shows in the past. So I don't know, I think you could probably wait on that if this is your first one. If this is your first one and they don't recommend it, I wouldn't worry about doing it right now, because I do want to see that you've done stuff. So I would wait on that. But those are just 3 things that you will need throughout your art career if you're gonna get into this kind of thing. That usually pops up and it's pretty common. So I'd recommend having that. And research the difference between an artist statement and artist biography, because I've had to do so myself. And I don't really want to give you guys tips on something that I'm fully not clear on. Like, I can't say, oh, I have it down. So yeah, I just recommend looking up stuff for that. The next thing you might need is a booth picture. And it's very hard when you have not done a show and they want you to have a booth picture, but you don't have a picture of a booth. So what I end up having to do was to set up in my backyard with a tent and kind of do like a mock thing of what it would look like. So yeah, which was also very helpful, because now looking back, I would have gone into the show without having any idea of what I was going to set up. Like, I had it in my head, but it's good to try it beforehand. I don't normally do it now because I'm so used to doing it. I kind of have a flow, and if there's little things I have to tweak, which usually there is for that individual show, that's fine. I can do that, but I know like what I want. So make sure, if it's your first show, to just set up beforehand, take the picture. They usually do not want you in the picture, and they don't want your name, I think. I can't say that's true. Make sure to look on like your application. Usually they list everything, especially if you're going through another website, they'll tell you like the guidelines, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But most of the time, I know for sure they don't want you in the image, because they don't want you as the artist affecting the decision, because usually it's juried, so there are people deciding on if you should get in or not. So another thing to remember is that applications most likely, more often than not, will cost. So just make sure that you're prepared for that. Sometimes it can be up to $50. Sometimes it's just $10. Sometimes, it's $20. I don't normally think it's more than $50, maybe like $65. Which again, that's money right there. But if you want to get into this, you just have to be willing to put the money in, and hopefully, if you put the work in and the money in, you should get it back most of the time. I know with my first few shows, that's not necessarily the case, and there have been some, maybe even last year, that wasn't the case. But you just have to be willing to kind of try things out and get a feel, because you never know, and there's not always information on it. But if anything, if I haven't gotten the money back that I would have liked, or if I just broke even, if anything I got out of it was being able to talk to people and connect with people and get information that I wouldn't have known, or get new customers, or just make relationships. And that one-on-one thing is very important. So yeah, if you're not super sure about a show, just kind of make sure that I'm sorry guys, I'm like getting distracted. It's been a long day, but just make sure that you are willing to kind of take that chance. There's been shows where I went through so much time, and time is money, guys. You spend a lot of time preparing for things like this. So You just have to be willing. I've spent so much time setting up, paid money for it, and I've made absolutely nothing. But my brothers were there that day, and it was actually really fun just getting to chill with them. And then I got connected with this other lady. So it was a lot of fun, and I made other connections. I didn't really make money necessarily, but I enjoyed it. So just find something good out of it. Don't get discouraged because it happens to everybody. And honestly, just make sure that you're doing what you love and you should be fine. So those are the first few tips. This video might be a little long because I'm talking to you, but again, hopefully this is for the people who want to get into this type of thing. Yeah, I went over like what to expect. So again, don't expect too much from your first show. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Obviously, I hope that you make money. I pray that you make money and that you get out of it what you wanted, but people don't really know you. And your first show is usually a way for you to get out there and for people to start seeing who you are. And most of the time, like one show I did twice, people have come back and been like, oh, I remember you from last year. And I was like, oh, yay, because that last year I think was one of my first shows. And oh my gosh, my setup was awful. I did not have nearly the same product because my style had changed so much. And the same is going to be for this year. My style has changed. It's still kind of the same, but I've added more to it. So people probably be like, oh, that's cool and stuff, but they know you. So make sure that if you get into a show and you like it, do it more than once. Because it's nice to have the same people coming back. And especially when they get familiar, you know, they'll be able to tell other people about it and things like that. So don't expect too much from your first show. If anything, just make sure that you are connecting with people, you're talking to people, you're explaining your process. You're going to have to do that a lot, so just be prepared for that. Be prepared to stand a lot. That is a whole nother big thing. So another thing I wanted to add on is if you can, for your first show at least, but if every show would be lovely, have somebody there with you. It's most of the time they are very long days, if not multiple days. So it's nice to have somebody watch over your booth when you can go to the bathroom, when you need to get food. And it's also really nice to be able to walk around, and you may not have the money to spend on other artists, but if anything, to see their stuff, grab a card, connect, talk. And just know that there's somebody out interested in their work. It's always nice when people come up, if anything, and are willing to stop and talk. So just make sure to do that for other artists. And if you can, support them in some small way. Usually I like to get a little something from as many people as I can throughout the time period that I'm there. Might not be the best thing for my wallet, but I enjoy supporting other people. All right, so now I'm going to touch on setup. And this honestly depends on what type of art you do. If you are somebody who is more crafty and does jewelry or cards or clothes and stuff like that, your setup is going to be very different. For instance, if you do clothes, you're going to need like a clothes rack so people can flip through it. Maybe a table with a card, pictures of people wearing your stuff, or a portfolio, and maybe few other items that people can look through depending on what you sell. If you do jewelry, then you're going to need like jewelry hangers, jewelry racks, so people can kind of either turn your stuff around or look through it, and there's bracelet like holders and all that kind of stuff. I've seen a lot of different types of arts, being at as many art shows as I have, and as many artists have been there. Like I said, I love to walk around and do stuff, so it's nice seeing the other artists and how they set up. So just make sure that, again, if it's your first show, you're not really sure how to do it, look up as much as you can, but just do the best to your ability. And again, if you can, walk around, because not only are you supporting other artists, but you're getting ideas for how to do it better. And again, especially if it's your first show, talking to other people is really, really helpful. It's how you learn. I cannot tell you how far I've come from my first show to now, how much you just develop and learn upon, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I could have added this and things like that. So make sure to just talk, to walk around and learn. But every art is different. For me, I have canvases, which is honestly, I feel like one of the hardest to deal with, because you want to show as many works as you can, but they take up space. And most of the time, your average space is a 10 by 10. So you can only fit so much in there that's comfortable, that's not crowded, and people can still walk. So, as I said, make sure to set up outside or something. You will most likely need a tent. would recommend getting a white one if you can, because that's sometimes people have like uniform ones. And then there's normally certified ones, depending. I don't know if it changes for state, but again, look it up and make sure that you have all the information. Usually they'll have it all in the application, but just make sure you know those little details. And if not, sometimes you can rent one, but if you don't want to spend the extra money and you just want to have a tent for every show, it's worth the investment. But as I was saying, just make sure to set it up outside and test how it would look, because you don't want to get there and you're freaking out and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to look one way and it doesn't, and you have to change it. It's really a pain in the butt. So just make sure to know what you're going to do. As far as canvases go, there are racks you can get, but for me personally, these racks happen to be very expensive, or at least I haven't found a decent price that I would want to spend on it. I have a lot of other things going on other than art, and the fact that I spend so much on painting in general already. I have to find ways to save money. So what I do is actually I take, and maybe I'll be able to show you guys in my next show, which is coming up in June. If you guys are able to be there, heave. When I get more details on it, I will make sure to put it out. But yeah, just keep a lookout for that. It is in Virginia, so if you're anywhere in the area, make the day trip or something. It's really worth it. There's a young like entrepreneur section where you can like look around and stuff. But sorry, off track. As I was saying, I use the racks that you usually put in a closet, the like linen racks, and I just zip tie them together so I can hang my canvases on there. And I usually like bend paper clips and I'll stick it in the back of my canvas and I'll hang it on. Again, I'll make a whole more detailed video this time, I promise. I am more comfortable with filming in person, like in public now. It's still kind of but if I really have to do it for you guys, I will. So I'll make sure to do that when the show comes around, but I'll show you guys the process and how I do that. But again, you just kind of have to find hacks. It's the way I found all this stuff out, guys, is honestly just digging through the internet. You guys have the internet at your fingertips now. It is a blessing, so make sure to utilize that as much as you can. But yeah, make sure you just kind of know your setup beforehand, and yeah, hopefully this all makes sense. So we have a few more things. Right now, I want to touch on the fact that you want to make sure to have a list of all the items that you're selling and the quantity that you have, just to make sure to keep track of what you sold and just to keep track of like your finances, so you can see if you broke even, see if you made a profit, and all that stuff. I normally don't calculate materials into it, but just be aware that you will need bags. If you have canvases like me, I like to use bubble wrap or something to protect the canvas when in the bag, because most likely people are walking around and they're going to go looking at other stuff, and you just want to make sure that the item is protected. And as far as like prints, there's plastic sheets that you can get. I use page protectors for certain sizes, but it only goes up to a certain size, and I've had to, again, dig through the internet to find other sizes because I do like my large pieces. So that was a little tricky to find, but I eventually found it. I don't know where I got it from. I can't remember. It was probably somewhere on Amazon, so maybe I'll try to find that for a future video. I'll kind of try to list everything that I use. But yeah, just make sure you have stuff that's protective for your pieces, because you don't want them getting ruined. Another thing is, if you have canvases, I don't know what people do for jewelry and stuff. Usually they might have tags or cards, but I like to mark my canvases because there is a world out there that does like to steal art. Maybe not necessarily physically all the time as much as digitally, but I do want to still make sure that it's protected. So I make sure, which I did show in a recent, not a recent video, but a past video, I sign the back of my canvases with the title of the work so people know what it's named. I like to do that. Then I'll usually put by Rachel McDougald, which is my full name. And then I'll sign RSCS, which stands for Rachel's Creations. And then I usually put like the year. So I just kind of make sure that it's marked enough to know that it was made by me. That's what I like to do, but people do things differently. So just make sure that your work is marked if you are a painter. That's something very important that I encourage you to do, especially just as a newer artist. People think they could take advantage of you and stuff. So make sure to do that. So prices. That is something that is very hard to figure out as a new time artist, because you don't have the experience necessarily, but it still has value to you. So honestly, you just have to do what makes you feel comfortable. And at the same time, what can be affordable, I have to say that I do change my prices, not like drastically, but a little bit depending on the area, because people just in some places aren't necessarily willing. And if you're dropping really low just to get somebody to buy your art, it is not worth it. Don't even bother selling there, because you put time into it. It is time, and people don't realize that you spend time not only making the work, but you spend time signing it, you spend time prepping it, you spend time getting the stuff in order to protect it when you're selling it, you spend time setting up the table, you spend time searching for art shows, you spend time doing a lot of things outside of just painting or whatever craft you might be doing. And people don't realize that, but if they were working and spending time doing all this stuff, they would want to get paid for it too. And it's not always about the money, but if it has value to you, price it at what you feel is right. But again, do not go crazy, because you want people to be able to get your work. So if somebody really likes it but they can't afford it, it's really like, I don't know, I feel bad because I've been in that position. And so I kind of just try to find a balance between that. But if you've been to my art shows, you see what my prices are. They actually are fairly low. But I kind of feel bad like pricing them really high. But eventually I do want to work up to getting in a a little bit higher price. And when I feel like I've made more experience as an artist, then I do price up more works depending on what they are, or if they have more value to me personally, I will price them a little higher. But if something took like forever to make, for instance, my background right here, this took a long time. This is probably my most expensive piece. It is hanging on my wall, but I love this as a background, so I will be sad when I sell it. Hopefully that's soon though. But yeah, this one took a long time. It also took a lot of materials, so you just have to make sure to calculate all that. But again, if it has value to you, price it at what you feel is right. But those are my tips for that. It's very hard to find like your groove. Yeah, just remember that you're a beginner, so you're not going to get everything right. And yeah. So last thing I wanted to touch on, I'm sorry, I know this video is very long, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But the last thing I wanted to touch on was payment. Just make sure, it's pretty simple, but just make sure you have a payment available for cash and card. Card, I use a Square, which is like the easiest, best thing ever. It's a little square thing, literally square, that people can swipe their cards on, and you just stick it inside your phone. It usually goes wherever you put your headphones in. So if you have Apple, I'm actually thinking like the newer one, I know they changed it, so I'm not sure how you would do that. But I know they have like Bluetooth machines, so you can do chip, and they have all this other stuff, so just look it up. But I personally just like the Square thing. It's super easy. You can get the app, hook it up to your bank account, and it's super easy. So yeah, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Join my beautiful Blue Babe family. We are growing, and I'm super excited about it. I still have to do a 100 subscriber special, and if I get the time, I will. Sorry. Super busy at the moment. I'm a senior, guys, so and I'm dealing with senior stuff. So yeah, I'm busy. And if all the other seniors out there, you guys will understand. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure to comment if you guys made it to the end, and just let me know if you guys like this type of thing, just like my artist tips. I do want to get back into my artist talks that I had. Maybe it'll be a voiceover. Maybe it's going to be me talking to you guys face to face. And yeah, I hope you guys like this video, and I will get my 100 subscriber special out soon. I have an idea, I just have to film it because it's gonna take me some time. But yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video on Friday. Bye guys.